Hey everyone, welcome to the second Applied ZK workshop co-hosted by Ethereum Foundation Privacy and Scaling Explorations and ZeroX Park. By way of introductions, my name is Brian and I'm the director of ZeroX Park.
I'm Barry, and I work on the privacy and scaling exploration team.
Cool. So we're super excited to have you all here today for a really exciting lineup of various applied ZK projects. Before we get started, I wanted to just make a couple of notes, some procedural and some about, in general, how we're thinking about a lot of these projects and presentations that we're all going to be going through today. The first thing is I wanted to give a huge thank you to the Stanford SBC crew, the AV folks, Ruth, Steph, and especially Professor Dan Bonet for help making this event possible. So thank you so much. And I also wanted to thank the staff from Xerox Park and Privacy Scaling Explorations who have helped to put this all together, in particular Michael Ki-chong at the front, and Althea, who is unfortunately not able to be here with us today. But thank you all for making this such a smooth experience in planning. Cool. So for speakers, just one quick note. Before you come up, when the speakers prior to you are about to join, are about to finish up, or a few minutes before, make sure to go to the back to get a lapel mic from the AV team, because only audio that is basically going through the microphone is going to be recorded for the post event recordings. If you stand up here and just speak directly into this mic, then that also works. And also, when we take questions after presentations, please go up to the mics down in the center of the aisle so that way your questions can be picked up by the recording as well. Okay, cool. So I just want to make a few quick notes for myself personally, and then I'll turn it over to Barry, and we'll show the schedule. Since the last Applied ZK workshop, only about 5 months ago, a lot has changed. And this is both, with respect to the technology itself and also with respect to the world and the potential impacts of applied cryptography. A few notes that I've just been thinking about that I wanted to share that a lot of these projects have gotten me thinking about. Well, the first thing is that, as we'll see today, the reason that we run these applied ZK workshops is because we're interested in the possibilities for ZK as a tool. Applied ZK for us means looking at ZK as a tool to enable end-user facing applications, not just a technology that is important in and of itself. The second thing that I want to emphasize is that a lot of the projects that we're seeing today and that we're most excited about came out of exploratory R&D when people went down directions which we didn't necessarily know would be productive, or when people went down directions that were interesting for their own sake. So while it is important that we are able to look at ZK as a tool, at the same time, exploratory research and development will enable us to skate to where the puck is going and enable and open up these new use cases. Another interesting thing is that a lot of these projects will demonstrate a cool mix between both ZK for manipulating on-chain data and off-chain data. I think it's going to be a major theme of the next couple of years that we're simultaneously going to be using ZK in conjunction with blockchains, as well as to make data that is off-chain signed cryptographically, for example, with other protocols, often protocols that have existed before SNARKs, more interoperable with the digital world of the blockchain. One more note that I want to make is that a lot of us see ZK as only the first of several transformative next-generation cryptographic primitives. And in the following years, we're excited to also uncover some of the applications of new primitives like witness encryption, multi-party computation, or even further on FHE or I/O. And this final note is about basically, not exactly related to the tech, but something that I think is just important for ecosystem health in general. I think that over time, it will be extremely important to build feedback loops between application development, R&D, and infrastructure at the level of both technical feedback loops, where the end use cases are informing R&D and infrastructure needs, at the level of social integration and feedback loops, where there is a tight community and a set of pieces of community infrastructure linking these things together. And finally, at the level of economic feedback loops, where value capture at the application development level is able to support R&D, infrastructure, and these kinds of community functions. So here's the schedule. You can also find it online at zkworkshop.info/Stanford-agenda. But as you can see, we have 3 blocks. In the first block, we'll have 6 presentations from a variety of teams. In the early afternoon block, after lunch, we will have 6 presentations or demos also from various teams around the ecosystem. And finally, we'll close out the day with 4 breakout sessions that will probably arrange in 4 corners of the room, led by Yufeng, Barry Whitehat, Rachel Ackerley, and Jordi Bailino. Cool. Barry, do you want to make a few notes?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, either.
Sure. Okay. So thank you, Brian. So what I wanted to talk about right now is some of the like more historical stuff that's been happening, or like the kind of way the space has been moving. That like the last time that we were all here was in 2019, February 2019. It was just before COVID, and we all came here to meet up and research and potentially get COVID. And like, so it's really strange to be back here, because like this was the last place that I had like the before time, as people say. This is the last time that I was like with people and I didn't really care about masks. In fact, I was teasing people I wasn't teasing them, but I was thinking like, oh, that's strange. But anyway, like at that time, the group was much smaller, and like the thing that being here really drives home to me is that's how different things are then and now. Because at that time, there weren't really a lot of ZK applications in production. And right now, we have a whole bunch. We have Seismo, we have Heianon, we have Skitter, we have Macy, quadratic voting stuff. There's so much stuff happening, and there's so many exciting things. And like this really connects with what Brian was saying about like having these kind of feedback loops. And we're starting to have those. And like we also have like a bunch of really exciting primitives that are moving towards that, like ZKVM and recursion aggregation and things we're going to explore later. So like I just want to try and pass across my excitement about the space. And like there's so many people here, and there's so many potential and cool applications we're working on. So super excited and really happy to be here. And thanks to Brian and everybody for doing all the organizing. This is going to be really fun.
All right, so there's one more thing that we have before we start our first presentations. Vivek, do you want to explain how participants can use the QR codes that they received in check-in and what those are for?
Yes. Do you have a marker? Hi. So basically, we're going to try to do something kind of meta here with ZK, where Q&A and discussion will be done pseudonymously based on the role you have at the conference. So I missed a bunch of people because registration was a little hectic, but essentially there's 3 different roles you can have. You can either be an attendee, a presenter, or someone who's been here at this conference before COVID with these 3 different QR codes. And essentially what it'll allow you to do is you can scan this QR code, and then it'll allow you to post to a feed. Applied, I got it. Applied ZK Guild Twitter feed. Each message is going to be given a specific ID. So if you want to reply to messages, you can just pick that ID and then reply to it, and then a reply will be sent. And each of these roles, also, instead of using boring terms like presenter and attendee and all that stuff, we're going to use fun magical terms for everything. So attendees are apprentices. Presenters are wizards. People who've been here before, grand wizards. Instead of proving and verifying, we're going to be casting spells and doing enchantments. I think all the terms around ZK are so boring, but ZK is so magical. It's so crazy. So this is an attempt to try to use new lingo and try to inspire some new creativity around that. So yeah, please use it. Please have fun. If you didn't get one of these from me, come by and I can give you more. Yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Vivek. So without further ado, let's start our first presentation, which will be ZK Circuits for Elliptic Curve Operations by Yi Sun and Jonathan Wang.